Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at some more Jimi Hendrix rhythm style of playing. Now there's a bunch of other parts to this sort of mini series. This is video number 6 and I highly recommend you check all the others out first before going on to this one. In this video we're going to look at a chord Hendrix used in songs such as Castles Made of Sand and Little Wing. Sounds like this. Okay, that chord which crops up in Hendrix is playing a lot. I'm going to get into that chord and I'm going to tell you what it's called and I'm going to show you how you can use that chord in your own playing. Stay tuned and I'll show you how to do it. In this video then, we're going to be looking at some more Jimi Hendrix rhythm style, but if you haven't done it already, click like to like the video, hit subscribe to subscribe to the channel, and also click that alert bell so you don't miss any updates. I've put together a workbook for this lesson with a bunch of diagrams, notation, tab, and all that sort of thing. If you want that for free, you'll see a link below in the description. But let's get stuck right in. As I said, in this video, we're going to be looking at this chord that Hendrix uses a lot in his playing, songs such as Castles Made of Sand right at the beginning there, and also in Little Wing as well. So first of all, let's learn how to play the chord, and then I'm going to pick it apart and tell you a little bit more about it. So let's start off with the awkward bit, is getting that thumb over the top of the neck and hitting the root. So we're going to do this in G to start with, and what you want to try and do is get your thumb right around the top of the neck. So basically the neck is going to be sitting right in the curve of your hand there, okay? Get that thumb over the top first and see if you can just practice fretting the 3rd fret on the E string like that. Okay, it's difficult. Now you'll find a certain part on your thumb which will suit you. Okay, and then from there, we want to get our 3rd finger on the D string in the 5th fret, which is the same note, and play that one as well. Okay, then we're going to get our index finger, we're going to place that in the 3rd fret on the B string. And then we're going to use our pinky, our little finger, and get that into the 5th fret on the high E. So we've got 3rd fret on the low E, 5th fret on the D, 1st finger is in the 3rd fret on the B string, and then our pinky's in the 5th fret on the high E. Really cool sounding chord. Now the tricky part with playing that as well as fretting it with all of this, your thumb over the top, I'll show you how you can do that without your thumb in a sec. But the tricky part as well is you only want to actually make a sound out of the notes you're fretting. So we don't want this. Okay, there I play the open A string and the open G string because I'm not fretting them. Now that's fine in the key of G. It kind of works. If I move that to, say, the 6th fret and I'm doing it in B flat, or up to this sort of area in E flat, it's going to start sounding absolutely hideous. So we need to mute those open strings. Now naturally, by getting that thumb over the top, you're going to naturally just touch the A string. Okay, so just check when you're playing that thumb over the top that you are actually muting that A string. It's quite hard to not mute it, if I'm being honest. If you're fretting that note there, that 3rd fret on the low E, to not mute that A string is difficult. But what you can also do as well, which is something I do for other parts of my playing, is I'll use the tip of my 3rd finger, even though I'm fretting that D string note in the 5th fret, I'll also try and lightly catch the top of my finger on the A string as well to mute it. So see, even though I'm not using my thumb, I'm still actually muting it there. Okay, so I'm sort of double muting that then. I'm muting it with my thumb over the top and also the tip of my 3rd finger. Okay, so that's just the tip of my finger. That's just my thumb, both together. You're never going to hear that A string. Okay, then if you keep your fingers fairly flat, it should take care of muting the G string. Now I'm feeling that when I'm plucking that G string on the underside of my 3rd finger there. Okay, and you can also, if you want to, touch the tip of your index finger that's fretting the 3rd fret in the B on that G string as well. Now it's not quite as good as a mute as your 3rd finger, but again, we're just double muting just to be on the safe side. And then with that, you can't hear the A, can't hear the G. I'm only sort of playing, or we only be able to hear the notes that we're actually fretting, which is key to making this chord sound good. So that might be something you have to work on when you first learn it, just to make it sound really, really clear and not like this. So you almost don't want your fingers nice and rounded. So obviously when we start playing guitar and we're learning D's and A's and that kind of thing, we want nice round fingers to get used to the fretboard. In this instance, flatten your hand a little bit more than you would. Now naturally, by getting that thumb over the top, if you are going to play that, you're going to bring your wrist up high and your fingers are going to naturally flatten off. So I did mention I'm going to show you how to do this without your thumb if you're finding that tricky. Now we can just get rid of the thumb and just play the bottom 4 strings, okay? But just be careful with this hand then. When you're strumming it with your strumming hand, you only really want to strum the bottom 4 strings, because muting the low E and the A is going to be difficult. You probably have to use your thumb for that anyway. Okay, so if I was going to play that chord, this third finger again is muting the G, which allows me to strum it as a chord, but I'm only going to be focusing my strum on the bottom 4 strings. Or the top 4 strings if you look at it that way. Okay, that's without my thumb. And with my thumb, okay, so the thumb does definitely add a sort of a lower register, more of a bassy kind of sound. But if you're playing with a bass player, you might not miss it that much. Certainly if you're playing on your own with this chord, it does sound good with the thumb if you can manage it, okay? So that is the chord down. Now, I think of that as kind of like an E-shaped version of it, because if you think, if we were to play a G like that, all we're sort of doing is stripping the chord away a little bit and adding that little finger. So I'd sort of see that as a kind of E-shaped version. But that is a G chord. Now, what is this chord actually called? Now, I've seen this referred to as a bunch of different names on the internet, in sheet music. So let's just talk about what is actually in this chord and the name of it. I've seen it referred to as a sus2 chord. And also I've seen it referred to as an add 9 chord. Now, technically speaking, let's talk about the add 9, why it wouldn't be called an add 9. Normally, if you're adding a 9 to a chord, you'll automatically assume you have your bass triad, your root, your third and your fifth, and you're adding a 9 on the top. Well, in this chord, we've got one root, we've got another root, we've got this note, which is the fifth, and we've got the 9th, so we're actually missing the 3rd. So for me, I wouldn't really call it an add 9 personally. I mean, you can do if you want to, but technically speaking, that's not necessarily correct. However, if you did want to call it that, that's also fine. I've also seen it referred to as a sus2. Now, often in a sus2 is where we replace the 3rd with the 9th. Now, that's sort of getting a little bit closer to what I suppose it would be called, because they would be our 3rd and we're just replacing it with that note. But it doesn't really have a sort of sus2 kind of sound necessarily, personally, is what I think anyway. Let me know if you disagree in the comments below. So I would actually see this as a G5 add 9, okay? So we're adding a 9th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's where it's come from. It's the 9th degree of a scale. We're adding it to a G5 chord. Now, in a 5 chord, in a power chord, we get a root and a fifth, which is sort of what we have here, a root and a fifth. That note there, so that B string note is a fifth. The low E and the D string, there's a root, a G and a fifth. So that's sort of like a power chord. Obviously not quite the same, but the same notes. And then we're just going to add that note there, a 9th to it. So technically speaking, if we're going to be 100% correct, this is what I think anyway, we'd call that a G5 add 9 because we're playing a G5 chord and we're adding a 9th. And that's certainly how I remember it when I play it. So, phew, enough of the theory behind it. Let's just talk about playing. That's for you guys that really like to know where this stuff comes from. So that would be our G5 add 9. Okay, if we wanted to move this around then, if we wanted to play it in F, just make sure that thumb is on an F along the E string. If we wanted to play it in A, there it is. We've got our root there, okay, on the low E string under our thumb. So let's just look at a few Hendrixy style licks with this, and then I'll talk about how you can use it in chord sequences. So if you've downloaded that PDF, you'll see this written out in tab, but here's the first lick. Okay, and that's pretty much the lick that he plays when he does it in the song Little Wing. So what Hendrix does a lot then when he plays this, he slides. So what we're going to do then, we're going to play the chord and then slide up 2 frets. Now that's tricky, so just practice that first. And then practice the same thing sliding down. Slide up, slide down. So we strum slide. So strum slide, strum slide, strum slide. Okay, and the lick again is slide from the 3rd fret up. Now it's going to be a quick one. Strum slide, strum slide. So 3 to 5, strum the 5th, slide to the 3rd, strum the 3rd, slide to the 1st. And then we strum the 1st fret again. So let me just play that round a few times. And again. Okay, of course you can do this without the thumb, which would sound like this. Okay, and that's that kind of sound from Little Wing, okay? So that's how to do it. So just, you're probably going to find your fingers are going to get a bit sore when you're moving that around, but it's such a cool sound. Okay, let's have a look at another example. Sounds like this. Okay, and that is straight out of Castles Made of Sand. So again, it's the same kind of thing. Strum, slide, strum, slide, strum, slide, strum, slide, strum, slide, strum, slide, strum, slide. So that's the same sort of thing, and this is very, very Hendrixy. So we strum, slide, strum, slide. So we're going to do this. 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 3, 3 to 1, back to 3. And let me just do all that again slowly. So 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 3, 3 to 1, 1 to 3. Okay, and let me just do that a bit faster. And a little bit faster again. So you can see when I'm speeding that up a bit now, it's really getting that Castles Made of Sand vibe. But just take your time with that chord. Just get the hang of it first because it's difficult, and then practice sliding that around for that Hendrixy effect. So let's talk about using that chord then for songs of your own. So if you're familiar with the Nashville number system, or also known as the harmonized chord scale, we can use these on numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. So there's a lot of choice. So I'll just go through that in the key of G. So there's our 1, the G major, 2, the A minor. So one thing just to note with this chord, it's not a major or a minor chord. The 3rd note in a triad, the 3rd, is what tells us if this chord is major or minor. And since there's not that in this chord at all, it's a 5 add 9, as we learned at the beginning, G5 add 9, we can play this over major and minor chords. So that's why we can do it on a G major and an A minor. We can also do this on the 4, which is a C major. We can do this on the 5, which is our D major. And also our 6, which is our E minor, and also known as our relative minor. Okay, it definitely gets more tricky as you get up higher as well. So in the key of G, we can use it on a 1, which is a G major, 2, which is an A minor, 4, which is a C major, 5, which is a D major, and our 6, which is an E minor. Okay, now obviously that's just for G major. It's worth transposing that into other keys as well. But let me just jam around the chord sequence, and I'm going to slot some of these Hendrix-esque kind of chord fills in using this chord. So the chord sequence I'm going to use for the nature of this is going to be G, I'll use C, E minor, and D. Standard chord sequence, 1, 4, 6, 5. Okay, here we go. This is just me jamming around with some of those ideas. Okay, that was just me kind of noodling around showing you how you can use that chord a little bit. Now obviously there I was kind of forcing it in a little bit. You wouldn't use it that much in a chord sequence. And some of the other fills I was playing around with there you'll see in some of the other Hendrix videos that we've done. Now that is just the idea of the chord and how you can use it. Certainly when you're playing Hendrix songs such as Little Wing and Castles Made of Sand is an absolute essential part to your Hendrix rhythm playing. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't done already, hit like to like the video, click subscribe to the channel, and click that alert bell so you don't miss any updates. If you want the PDF with the tab, notation and diagrams, you'll see a link to a free PDF below in the description. Come and check out my guitar school, www.fretlix.com. Loads of courses and lessons guaranteed to make you a better guitarist. Hope you enjoyed that video and I'll see you in another one soon.